All my life I've been drawn to sweets. When I wrote my memoir, Toast, the moment I popped a particular toffee in my mouth was the very moment my childhood came flooding back to me. The unfurling of the wrapper, the smooth exterior on my fingertips, and of course, the popping in the mouth. As I chewed, the slow release of flavour unlocked deeply hidden emotions. Ever since writing that book, I've always wondered why it is that something as simple as a sweet can help us time travel so evocatively. Why is it that something so incidental in our day-to-day lives can prove to be so utterly fundamental in revealing who we really are? This journey isn't simply to the heart of my own sweet childhood. It's also a bigger journey through the history of confectionery in Britain. From unadulterated honey to the boiled sweets of old-fashioned sweet shops. It's literally like my childhood flashing past me, in sugar form. From their medicinal and religious origins through to the advertising jingles that defined eras.
Have a break, have a Kit Kat.
And from the psychology of sweets through to the dangers of overindulgence. There's no better way to start this story than in the back of my dad's old car. I was brought up in the early 60s in this part of the world, in Wolverhampton, in the Midlands. It was a big, happy family. There was mum and dad, and I was one of 3 brothers. I'm the youngest. Dad had a factory. It made metal parts for cars. It was a big, scary place to a little boy like me. And Mum stayed at home. This car was a very special place for me. It was quite a big, smart car to have. Whenever we went out in it, we always used to have little tins of sweeties. There'd be travel sweets, which you used to get from the chemist. They'd come in a metal tin with pictures of fruit on the top. And then there were little paper bags. There'd be licorice torpedoes, maybe barley sugars. And best of all, Dad's American hard gums. And they'd be hidden. He used to keep them in the glove box, but he thought I didn't know. And we'd go off on picnics and outings with bottles of dandelion and burdock, or ginger beer, and a big tartan rug. And then there'd be the big tin of toffees. That was the bit I waited for. Yes, I ate the sandwiches and the fruitcake, but what I really wanted was that tin of sweets. All the sweets are like a little road map through my life. I'm starting my journey at what is reputedly the oldest sweet shop in Britain, where I'm meeting Tim Richardson, a man who really knows his sweets, having written perhaps the definitive history of confectionery. The simple act of walking through the door is like stepping back in time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to a proper sweet shop.
Pontefract cakes. Being surrounded by all the colours and flavours from long ago. Oh, we're both immediately transported back to the days of short trousers and satchels. Chocolate, limes.
They're anarchists of gastronomy sweets, I think. It's like a pure licorice sort of line going into your taste buds.
Palmer violet smell of my Auntie Fanny's handbag. This is Auntie Fanny. Most sweets are sweet, but some are decidedly not. Like these super sour balls coated in citric acid. They're beautiful.
1, 2, 3, in.
Wow. Oh my God!
Yep.
Goodness me.
God, when you get through that sugar! Wow! It's kind of making my shoulders go weird.
We love this.
I may never recover.
No, you may not.
Coming into the sweet shop was a really important part of my childhood. I mean, coming here today was like reliving that. Was it the same for you?
Yeah, I think it is for most kids in Britain. The sweet shop is like our cathedral. That's what Roald Dahl said.
Susan knows CWS means the sweets that she likes best. She gets them at the Co-op store, where pocket money buys you more.
Sweets are the first things we buy, the first things we give, the first things we trade. We learn about money. We learn something about relationships through sweets. They're very important in the lives of children, sweets, which is why I always say I think it's a tragedy that children aren't given more sweets. They're a big part of a child's world, and we never forget that. You know, we're all grown-up children, really.
Nuttles Mentos.
Sherbet dib-dabs?
Sherbet dib-dabs, yeah. Yeah.
It's slowly dawning on me that many of the sweets on show here are more like museum exhibits than tasty treats. Indeed, many sweet shops like this used to be pharmacies. A spoonful of sugar really does help the medicine go down.
These are the original kind of white aniseed balls, just sugar around a kernel, which is, of course, the aniseed.
The aniseed.
And this is a medieval comfit. But the point about this in the medieval period was that they were medicines. Is these things were imported often from the Middle East, and sugar is a preservative. So the sugar was ostensibly being used to preserve the valuable little root inside. So aniseed, you know, is a good diuretic. It's good for stomach disorders and so on. But these are very interesting. UFOs, or flying saucers. What these are, historically, are a Victorian way of administering drugs. They used to use some of the same machinery for making sweets as they used for making pills. So pressed tablets, things like refreshers, Parma violets, that sort of thing, love hearts. These were all made using the tablet makers. And this was a very classic way of administering drugs, was just to put them inside rice paper. This, of course, isn't a drug to make you better. This is sherbet.
So tell me, what are the medieval origins of my favourite sweet, which is the licorice?
It was one of those crossover sweets between pharmacy and confectionery. Roman legionaries used to be given licorice sticks to suck on as they marched as a way of staving off dehydration.
To be honest, I was never very fond of licorice all sorts.
Yeah, well, it's a funny name, isn't it? Licorice all sorts. Well, the story goes that a particular salesman was carrying his wares and he got them all muddled up. And he just sort of offered them anyway. And this is the birth of all sorts.
Really?
Yeah, that's the story. The result, I think, are one of the great triumphs of sweets design.
Do you like them all?
Well, I do like them all. Yeah, I do, I'm afraid. That's my problem with sweets. I like them all.
Now, I love jelly babies. Tell me about them. Where do they come from?
Jellies come from a medieval sweets background and, again, the pharmacy. I mean, the awful truth, I have to say, about the jelly baby is that they weren't called jelly babies originally. And in this wonderful shop here, they've got them with their original name. Jelly babies.
Yeah.
Originally called
Oh, don't.
unclaimed babies.
But that's so sad.
It is sad. It's a very Victorian thing. Unbelievably, almost, they were marketed as that. And these are obviously the babies which were given up to the orphanages.
This idea of little orphan jellies.
Yeah.
There's something actually quite sad about that.
I was intrigued when you said that you ate them in a particular way. How do you start?
I go for the head.
You go for that.
Straight away. Off.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There aren't very many areas in life where you can legitimately bite the head off a baby. Fantastic.
The jars and shelves of multicoloured confectionery are generating a myriad of memories, some good and some less so.
Now, you see, I never knew them as jazzies.
It's a regional variation of the name.
These were the first sweets I bought with my own money
You're right.
in a little pink and white striped bag. Floral gums! Goodness, Mum used to buy me those.
Sweet tobacco, right in front of us.
See, sweet tobacco was Saturday mornings. My father would come back from the shops with sweet tobacco. It's like all my pocket monies. I'm just watching them all. It's literally like my childhood flashing past me in sugar form. And things I truly had forgotten. It's very interesting. A lot of these sweets, You know, particularly things like the buttered Brazils and Clarnico mint creams. These are all my dad's things. I'm kind of happy and a little bit sad all at once.
I mean, the sweets are like memorials of our innocence. They remind us of what it was like when we were children. They will bring you back. The taste of the sweet will transport you back to a very particular moment in your life in a way that kind of nothing else does.
I'm avoiding the marshmallows. I know you've got marshmallows over there, which I'm avoiding, because they're mum, definitely. They're not me, and they're not my dad. It is an extraordinary experience being here. It really is. I've been really looking forward to today, finding a proper sweet shop with all the jars of little coloured jewels, sweets I'd forgotten about, memories of a life from long ago. And this is the strange thing about sweets, is it's not just that little sugar bomb that's in your mouth. It's everything that's associated with it and attached to it. It's all that baggage that goes with it. It's been a wonderful experience, but extraordinary and strangely more emotional than I'd ever expected it to be. I'm only sweets.
It's pretty clear that sweets have a compelling power to resurrect old emotions and memories in me. But is this the case for everyone? I've decided to meet up with my alter ego in the indulgent stakes, Nigella Lawson, to see if sweets have a similar effect on her.
Almost more than any other thing that I eat, it's a sweet that will bring back absolutely picture-perfect memories.
I think if you're English, boiled sweets for us are what, you know, the Madeleine was for Proust.
Yeah.
Really. I know it sounds really
Absolutely.
pretentious, but
No, it's
actually
absolutely true.
your whole childhood comes flooding back just with that every sweet swallow. But actually my mother had quite a childish delight in sweets too, and she was not very grown up as a person, so she would often go and she'd say, let's eat them in the street, which for her, she was brought up, that was like the height of ill breeding. The thing about sweets that's so nice is that particular thing of choosing how you would make your pennies stretch, and should you get 2 of the rhubarb and custard or 2 of the monkey nuts and so on. And I think that children take that very seriously, which is right. So on the one hand, it's indulgent and it's larky, but the reality is it feels very serious to you as a child. I can still remember my older brother's favourite sweets because it was very, very important because, of course, he was 3 years older, therefore his choices had something grander and more considered about them. Chocolate limes he was. But I like the whole, you know, the paper bag and everything. I mean, when I get sweets now still, I do love them being in a paper bag. And,
It feels right.
But also I like a sweetie jar too. And in fact, I have one always at home. And it's quite interesting because I can always tell the children who are not allowed to eat sweets because they steal. When they think I'm not looking, they just cram their hands in.
They're already learning to eat sweets like little gentlemen.
I mean, did you ever steal sweets?
Of course. I hate to say this, but, you know, everyone has done a bit of pick and mix work.
Bit of nick and mix.
But mostly it wasn't me, because I was a cowdy custard.
So these are sweets that will trigger a bit of memory with you and a few with me. Which are your favourites?
Okay. Rhubarb and custard, I don't know how you can ask, but I do like that Sasua plum. Caramac, so delicious, my sister's favourite. Such an exciting colour.
What was the smell?
Oh, it's the crack cocaine of the sweet world, I think.
It certainly was.
I'm going to have another bit. Monkey nuts.
Now, these are very good ones. You crunch.
I just shattered it already. I put it straight in my mouth. I've now got it.
A serious sweetie impatience.
It's increasingly apparent that sweets can remind us of happy and sad times. The humble marshmallow will always bring to mind my mother, who died when I was 9.
So, I mean, for me, the marshmallow was the sweet that has, I suppose, so much baggage with it. And I've steered clear of them for quite a long time. Do you have a particularly soothing sweet?
Well, no, but funny enough, since we're doing sweets and death, why not? That my mother, really, her idea of like the greatest treat in the world was a Mars bar.
Yeah.
And she would always keep one in the glove compartment. And she died young, like And I remember a friend of mine thinking she was doing me a favour by throwing away my mother's Mars bar. And it was very traumatic.
What's yours?
Probably quite just as well, actually, otherwise I'd still have it in its wrapper.
Well, yes, you would.
But I still, if I eat one now, I do think of her, and also her childish sense that it was just the naughtiest thing you could be eating.
Sweet things have the power to dig really deep emotionally. But I want to go right back to the very beginning, to the earliest examples of nature's own confectionery, and most importantly, our earliest appetite for all things sweet and sugary.
Oldest sweetener of them all is honey. Bees discovered how to make sugar long before man did, and up to 500 years ago, honey was the only known sweetener. Today it comes a long way down the list, though the bees work as hard as ever.
It seems that our desire to harness sweet things has been a key part of our evolution.
Wait, dip your finger in there. Like quite down. Just dip your finger in there.
It was warm.
Yeah, lovely, isn't it?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness me.
Lovely, isn't it? Absolutely wonderful stuff.
Warm and sticky.
But where does this primal craving for sweetness come from? I've met up with nutritionist Dr. Christy Ferguson to find out if the need for sweet things is a vital part of our DNA.
So where would you say our taste for all things sweet comes from? I mean, is it something that comes from birth?
Yeah, I mean, as babies, it's sort of inbred into us to actually seek out sweet foods. So first of all, it would be the mother's milk, and that's almost to create a close connection with our mum as we go through our early years. As we grow up, we associate sweet foods with birthday cakes and any kind of celebrations is usually tied around sweet foods. And so as we grow up, we sort of form very, very strong associations. And when we're feeling upset, we're feeling depressed, it kind of takes us back, in a sense, to those good times.
So the fact that things dissolve is very important to you.
So what actually happens when we eat something sweet?
We get a spike in our blood sugar levels, so we get this kind of instant sort of high, in a sense. But in our brain chemistry, what's really interesting is that we produce what's called serotonin, so that's our feel-good chemical. And that's why sugar and sweets can become quite addictive, because you get this instant feeling that drops away, and then you need the next one to give you that boost again.
Yes, been there.
I've had more than my fair share of honey on toast. But it wasn't until refined sugar became more readily available in the 18th century that artisan sweet confectioners started to produce the sort of boiled sweets we know and love today. I've come to York to meet sweet historian Laura Mason to understand better the origins of the boiled sweet from medieval times through to the Victorian era.
But are sweets well documented?
Yes and no. There are lots and lots of things I'd love to know about sweets that aren't documented. Maybe they were trade secrets, maybe no one thought to write them down.
Of course they would be secrets because you're protecting your livelihood.
Absolutely. But also there are books. I mean, books like some of these that we've got here. Early cookery books have sweet recipes in, and there are specific confectionery books which really start in the late 16th century in England. At that time, sweet making and confectionery making was like a kind of hobby. It's like a sort of embroidery, a kitchen equivalent of embroidery, a skilled thing. And of course it was very delicate. You know, you have all these lovely colours, shapes.
The whole art of confectionery, sugar boiling. I mean, thank goodness that somebody did write these things down. I mean, things like caraway comfits, Nelson's buttons, like peppermint drops. But they're coloured on the top with rose or Dutch pink.
It's incredible to think that the simple but magical act of boiling sugar in water was perhaps the one most important single development in the birth of the boiled sweet.
So who would have been making the first sweets?
Apothecaries, who were the people who made medicines.
Yes.
Some people who are better known as alchemists. What they really wanted to find was a substance that you could use to transmute base metal into gold. In the course of their experiments, they used all sorts of techniques, foodstuffs, non-foodstuffs, metals. Nostradamus, much better known for his prophecies about the world ending, left us some sugar recipes. He recorded them.
Bless him. So, I mean, socially, who would have been eating sweets?
Sweets were still seen as something expensive and luxurious in the 17th and early 18th centuries. But then the price of sugar gradually started to come down. West Indian sugar became easily available. By the 19th century, sugar was very cheap. And it began to lose its kind of luxurious image a little bit. So though rich people might still have lovely confectionery and desserts, the urchins on the street would be buying a pennyworth of some very luridly coloured sugar sweets, which probably actually might not be very good for you.
It must have been very, very special. I mean, you could see the attraction for sweets.
Oh, I think it must have been totally magical, the idea of the sweet shop.
Putting your nose up against the glass and just looking at these colours and stripes and swirls.
Yeah, and confectioners' shops, you know, they'd always have a wonderful display. Clear glass jars with sweets or syrups in, and they'd put them in the window so you see all these beautiful colours. Well, life is rather brown and possibly not very clean, and there's this palace of sparkling jewellery.
It's treasure
just
trove.
on the corner of the street, yeah.
For Laura, the good old-fashioned humbug, with its hint of mint and its ubiquitous stripes, is the quintessential boiled sweet. Which is funny, I simply remember nicking them from my dad's pockets.
That's the sweets I remember.
Would you like to try one?
I would love to try one. It's like being 7 again. 50 years on, but it is like being 7 again.
And 7 was very much the age I was when my earliest memories of growing up in Wolverhampton started to take shape.
So I've only walked down this road probably once since the early 60s. And actually it hasn't changed that much. I think some of these houses might be slightly new builds, but they're exactly the same style.
Life was very quiet and uneventful for me amongst these streets, which is perhaps why my most vivid memories surround some of the sharper flavours to be found in my local sweet shop.
I was never without a sherbet fountain, usually one a day. And I was very specific about the way I ate them. I'd peel back the paper, take out the licorice stick, and rather than suck the sherbet through the licorice, which I think you're supposed to do, I used to lick the licorice, wet it, and then I would dip into the sherbet and eat it like that. Except when I got to the very end, and then I just tip the whole thing up backwards into my mouth. I'd always cough. Every time it would make me cough. And I'd get white powder all over my school blazer and my shirt. It was a kind of ritual. It's a good one.
But childhood memories aren't just about the sweets we choose to eat ourselves. Between the ages of 5 and 10, there was one sweet that very much defined the relationship with my father.
I suppose one of the greatest ever sweets for me was actually not mine at all. It was my father's toffee. And it was special because it came in a tray, a little tin tray full of toffee, and it came with a hammer. And he would sit there and crack the toffee with this little metal hammer into very sharp pieces. And then sometimes he'd let me have a bit, but it was really his. What I preferred was a chocolate toffee, a little nugget of chewy toffee covered in milk chocolate. As you open it, you get the smell, you get this wonderful hit of sugar and butter and cream. I almost measure every other confectionery by that chocolate toffee. It was desperately comforting. It was also, I suppose, part of another world, part of a grown-up world. You see, I wasn't always a good kid. I could be quite naughty. And I would get told off. My father was very strict. He'd take my sweets away. He'd threaten to smack me. But then there'd be that moment when he'd give me a sweet afterwards. It was his way of doing something he couldn't do, which was to say, sorry. You know, I didn't mean to get angry. I didn't mean to make you cry. It was kind of whip and kiss. The sweets he took away and the sweets he would give me.
My toffee and Dad's toffee differed in one important way. Mine included that most indulgent of ingredients, chocolate. A confectionery which has always had strong connections with the Quaker religion.
In the 1870s, the Cadbury brothers set up shop in Bourneville. There were many other makers of chocolate, but the Cadburys had to do it differently.
Not bad. Not bad at all, Margaret.
I've met up with a direct descendant of one of these Quaker dynasties. Deborah Cadbury, at a Quaker meeting house in the village of Bourneville, a place built upon the humanitarian values of these early chocolate pioneers.
Wonderful building. Smells like my old Sunday school.
Typical Quaker meeting house.
This is very simple.
The senses weren't to be indulged. You know, this was a puritanical religion. The path to God was simplicity.
The senses weren't to be indulged.
No.
But this is chocolate.
Yes. Yes, I know. A wonderful irony, isn't it?
It's a wonderful irony. It's a delicious irony.
But the first chocolate product wasn't the Bourneville dark chocolate bar. It was in fact a chocolate or cocoa drink with curiously puritanical origins.
At the time, drink really was ruining many poor families, and there was just no safety net at all. Quakers took temperance terribly seriously, and it led them to be fascinated in the idea of, could we get cocoa going as a business? Could we try and develop a nutritious alternative to alcohol that people actually want to drink?
Why were the Quakers so successful in business?
I think they were immensely trusted in the community. I mean, here they were, these Bible-reading men in their sober clothes, you know, totally trustworthy. In cocoa, for instance, in the 19th century, there were a lot of manufacturers who were, you know, bulking out their product with all sorts of things like lentils or pearl barley or molasses if you were lucky, or if you were unlucky, you know, with brick dust or vermilion or red lead, you know, poisonous substances.
So like the spice trade, it's the same, same thing.
Yes, I mean, you know, there was no regulation, so the Quakers were really appreciated when they were coming along trying to make a purer form of cocoa.
These chocolate drinks that were part of the temperance movement grew slowly into dark chocolate bars. But in the late 1800s, the Swiss invented a groundbreaking product, milk chocolate. This led to a frantic race amongst the Quaker firms to meet this foreign chocolate threat head-on. And the result, in 1905, was the birth of the first ever dairy milk bar. But the Quaker firms were once again forced into confectionery battle in 1932, when an American, Forrest Mars, set up shop in Slough, producing the first ever Mars bar. The Quakers, or more specifically Rowntree's, in turn fought back with a flurry of new brands in an attempt to knock this American interloper off his perch.
Rowntree's had an extraordinarily innovative run. They came up in very quick succession with dairy books. This is all in the 1930s. Kit Kat, which became a huge brand.
Ah, yes.
And then they had Black Magic. Mars came up with Maltesers.
This is like the Chocolate Wars.
It was like Chocolate Wars. Well, it was always like Chocolate Wars because there was always some new technology just round the corner.
Good morning, sir. Why, Hi, it's Mr. Monkhouse.
Oh, you can call me Bob, or even better, you can call me after 6 o'clock. You know what I'm here after, don't you?
I know, Mr. Monkhouse.
Yeah, you're right. I'm after your marvellous Mars bars. 2, please.
Mars are marvellous, aren't they, Mr. Monkhouse?
Marvellous? They're marvellous with a capital M.
Between the ages of 8 and 11, my primary school in Wolverhampton was my confectionery battleground. Whether it was in the playground or the classroom, friendships were formed, alliances forged, enemies made, and all over sweets.
This is a place of good memories. This is a place of fun where I'd arrive with my satchel, but also my little bag of sweets that I just bought at the sweet shop. And we'd swap them and we'd share them, or we wouldn't, depending. This is where the bike sheds used to be. It's where my brother used to come for a crafty fag. And although I've never smoked, always wanted to come here and have a very crafty sweet cigarette. Of course, this sweet cigarette isn't quite like the ones that we had with their little glowing pink tip, but strangely, it still feels really naughty. Having a ciggy in school, albeit a sweet one. I remember sitting in here and eating sweets from under the table, having a little bag on my lap, and secretly eating sweeties. When I was supposed to be learning my times table, really why I can't add up to this day. Midget gems, floral gums, jelly babies, because they were the quiet sweets. They weren't in wrappers that crinkled. They weren't in foil that crunched. They were quiet sweets, so nobody knew what I was up to. Never shared them. They were my sweets. You shared in the playground. It was the way we made friends, really, with sharing sweets, but not the ones in the classroom. They were mine.
In order to understand more about why I've used sweets to win friends and influence people, I've met up with child psychologist Laverne Antrobus. She's conducted some informal experiments with children to see what our behaviour around sweets can reveal about our personalities.
So, fill your little box, your plastic container, as quickly as possible.
The boys are doing it absolutely indiscriminately, anything. I would have been a little bit more like the girl on the far left, getting only what I want and doing it very quietly. And she's been very selective.
She knows what she wants.
This isn't about quantity for her. She knows exactly which sweet she wants and isn't interested in having more than any of the others.
Share out the tray of sweets and chocolates equally.
And he's straight in for the big one. The lad on the right, he didn't know what a lot of the sweets were. It's just that they were bigger than the others.
These are slightly older children.
The girl with the blonde hair is not scared of pushing everyone else out the way. And he's in, look. It's like a hawk. He's watching exactly what he wants.
Okay, so do whatever you want to do with 2 sweets.
And they're both in.
In my mouth. Just in case somebody else claims them. And the girls are much more controlled.
Yes. She's so happy that she's eaten one, but she's got one left.
Now this is a conundrum, isn't it? Share the chocolate bar. And he's actually giving it out. That's quite interesting, actually, that suddenly he's got an idea.
Suddenly he's in charge and is very happy to be the leader. And you have some, I'll have some. The girl in the middle is suddenly, I think, very aware that she's not done too well out of this. Oh look, she's giving one back! She's giving up her sweets to make someone else happy.
Is that like you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think one of the things that struck me about these tests was that, you know, the basic human characteristics that we all have are there very early on in young children. You know, can we share? Can we be independent without somebody else feeling that we're encroaching on their space? Is there strength in numbers? And how long do we keep that going when actually we really want to be on our own? And as you were watching, I felt that, you know, you were picking out bits of yourself there.
I think I'm definitely more like the girl on the far left. Not being pushy, taking my time.
Were you a sharer?
I know that I would have offered certain people sweets and not others. It was quite political. I just wanted to let people know what I thought of them. No, take two. I like you.
And you can't have any?
You can't have any. I'm sorry, you just can't have any. The extraordinary thing is, I don't actually feel 40 years older than those kids. I totally associate with what they're doing, their behaviour.
So I'm going to give you a sweet, see what it conjures up for you.
See, I was the only kid who liked very sharp sweets. I loved sweets that were very citrus, so very lime, very lemon, tart sherbet inside that used to bring all the veins out on the roof of your mouth and actually used to make your tongue hurt. And I would eat as many of these as I could. I think I quite like the pain, actually. Love Hearts, the most political sweet. You could really use these. If you unwrap them very, very carefully, you could actually rearrange them in the pack.
So what was the message on the one that you put in the order that you wanted it to?
Be mine. Be mine. Be mine. I'm going to tell you who I gave it to, though.
OK. Wow.
Now, marshmallows. My dad used to bring this into my bedroom at night, and he'd put one or two sometimes on my bedside table. I'd said, several years ago, I'd said that a marshmallow, particularly the pink ones, they were the nearest thing you could have to being given a kiss. And when Mum died, my father, night after night, would put them on my bedside table. And he'd remembered the fact I'd said that they were like getting a goodnight kiss. I mean, they are incredibly soft.
What do you think it said about the relationship that there was a marshmallow? Or that he'd remembered that that's what you'd said?
I was surprised that he'd remembered it. You know, he wasn't the sort of father that I would sit on his knee. He was, you know, he wasn't the most tactile of parents. But I think this was as near as he could get. He was the sort of man who, it would be very unlikely for him to even mention it. But he still put it on the bedside table.
And that was enough?
No.
It seems right that some 40-odd years later, I should return on a pilgrimage of sorts to the very place where my life changed forever. A place in which my most defining memories are intrinsically connected to sweets.
I mean, the wood panelling is still here. There was a huge Aga here. A great big cream thing. Oh, this! Yeah. This is the scullery. My dad made these cupboards. I remember him making them. These stairs still creak, just like they used to. Ah, the old sun window. It's beautiful light used to come through that. I remember that well. This is my bedroom. There he is. And my little bed. Obviously, there's some sad memories in this room. And my dad coming in and telling me my mum had died. I think he said Mummy's gone to heaven. And there were lots of happy times. Christmas with my pillowcase on the bed and the selection box with all those wonderful chocolates that we used to think tasted a bit stale, and all the better for it. Oh, they smell exactly the same. That hasn't changed at all. I've not eaten one of these for years. And it is. There's something... It's like being 11 years old. And it was a weird time because I went from being, I suppose, a desperately happy little boy, a kid in a big family, because there was Mum and Dad, there were my two brothers, and there was Auntie Fanny. She was the incontinent one who used to sit in a special chair. And then suddenly my brothers left home, Auntie Fanny died, then Mum died. Dad was out at work or at one of his Masonic meetings in the evening, or whatever he really did instead of going to Masonic meetings. And I'd be alone. And this house was quite big and scary for a little boy. Every creak, and there are lovely wooden floors in these houses under the carpets, and they do creak quite a lot. And every bit of wind in the chimneys. I used to get really scared. And this room was where I used to come and feel safe. And I'd shut the door. And I'd tuck myself up in bed and I'd pull the covers right up. I'd wait to hear my dad's key in the door. Sometimes I'd fall asleep and sometimes I wouldn't. It's very odd going from a busy, happy, bustling family life to being a little boy with his marshmallow. It's quite a strange feeling being here again. It's not unpleasant at all. A lot of happy memories in this house. Particularly at Christmas, with Mum packing up all the Christmas presents. I used to help her wrap them.
Don't forget the fruit gums, Mum.
1968, and now living with Dad and my new stepmum, I officially became a teenager. My life was all about Kit Kats, Aeros, fruit pastels and Smarties. And strangely, all of them felt very grown up and very modern. But little did I know that every single one of them had been invented in pre-war Britain by that other major Quaker firm, Rowntree's.
Here are millions of Smarties.
First born in a grocer's shop in the shadows of York Cathedral back in the mid-1800s, Rowntree's, like Cadbury's, conducted business with Quaker values at their core. But in pre-war Britain, they became the self-declared pioneers of confectionery marketing.
This is the archive, welcome.
Which is why I'm in York to meet company archivist Alex Hutchinson.
Now, I've seen a film where somebody gets squished in one of these, so...
I'm going to try not to crush you.
These, oh wow! So these are the original artworks?
Yes, that's post-war.
I can't have Smarties in the house. They'd be gone in seconds.
Mm.
I couldn't sleep knowing there was a tube of Smarties in my house.
Well, they weren't always known as Smarties. When we first started making them in the 1880s, we called them chocolate dragées, but the Yorkshiremen didn't like that, so they called them chocolate beans. The first people to eat chocolate were really kind of fine, elegant ladies in Europe who didn't like to pick up bits of chocolate because they would melt and stain their white gloves. So French confectioners, coated them in this sugar shell so that as they picked them up, the chocolate wouldn't melt on their fingers. And they're the first type of chocolate sweet. This is really nice. It really makes your mouth water. It's quite heavy. And this is the original artwork for Rowntree's fruit gums.
Oh, that little lad.
He was the fruit gumster.
I've got to say, these were the ones for me, the ones that you could actually, they felt like fruits in the mouth. The raspberry with the little droplets of berry.
This next row is packaging.
The original package.
This is one of the very, very early Quality Street cartons.
Imagine opening that and finding the gold coins.
You've probably wondered at some time or another how these delightful little wiggly things get on the top of a chocolate. And now you can see that it's all done by hand. There's no girl like a Yorkshire girl for dexterity and quickness in squeezing out the swirls of rich chocolate. At least that's what they say.
A particular favourite of both my mum and my stepmum's, the selection box of chocolates, always had female connotations for me. They were about giving, receiving, and saying far more than what was ever in the box. So it seems apt that back in the 1930s, these fancy boxes were so, well, fancy.
Buying a box of chocolates, it was tantamount to a marriage proposal because they were just so expensive. In 1933, Rowntree's came up with a cunning plan. They created a new line called Black Magic, which was a very good quality chocolate, but it was in a plain carton and the chocolates didn't cost you the earth. They hit upon this new advertising campaign where they were trying to persuade people that you could buy a box of chocolates for someone you'd only been out with once or twice.
It isn't a proposal, it's a box of chocolates.
Just a box of chocolates.
But as I took the record, it dropped and smashed into 1,000,000 pieces. I thought he'd never forgive me. But tonight, he came with a box of my favorite Black Magic chocolates. Those centers are absolutely dreamy.
These are original chalk and charcoal sketches for the 1933 Black Magic advertising campaign.
Wow. Heavens, smoking and fur.
Yes, I'm not sure it would go down quite so well with today's consumers, but
elegant,
it was very, very popular in its time.
Yes, I remember Dairy Box. It was a treat. It was a treat. It wasn't as special as being given a box of Black Magic.
No, we were aiming them at different consumers, so Black Magic was meant to be romantic, whereas Dairy Box was the sort of thing that you could buy for the girl next door just because she was sort of fun and you liked her, but you didn't really have to be going out with her.
My father would give Mum Black Magic, and then later my stepmother, she got Dairy Box.
Oh, well, speaks volumes.
It so does.
Ready for a break, dear?
How'd you guess?
And a Kit Kat.
Kit Kat, yes please. It's just what I need. Crisp, isn't it?
I like the chocolate, too.
Just right for a break. Have a break, have a Kit Kat.
This is one of the really early Kit Kat moulds from when we used to make single fingers of Kit Kat.
Single fingers?
Yeah, we made single fingers of Kit Kat in the 1930s.
See, for me, the whole point of a Kit Kat, it's that moment when I used to be able to run my thumbnail down the foil and then break the Kit Kat. And some clot changed the packaging.
Well, I suppose you could say it's to do with our Quaker roots. We had to, really, truly, we changed the packaging because we realised that if we had our Kit Kats in a flow wrap, they would be even crisper and better preserved when they got to the consumer.
It's not the same. I've never quite forgiven you for that, to be honest with you.
So you have it then. Marry the creamy milk from Shropshire with the cocoa from Ashanti. Cream and brown. Britain and Africa. And that is dairy milk chocolate.
Yummy, 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 I got love in my tummy and I feel like loving you.
1971, and I was 15. time of creative expression, wild colour, and, well, gay abandon. Chocolate confectionery was about to get very sexy, in more ways than one. So I'm dusting off my tie-dye t-shirt and heading to Cadbury's HQ to reminisce in some of those quintessentially 60s and 70s advertising campaigns with Tony Billsborough.
My real chocolate years were the mid to late 60s, when it almost seemed you could measure my life in chocolate bars. Yeah. The ones that I knew very well, but also the new bars that would come along. For me, the perfect bar was the Cadbury's Flake.
Yeah, Cadbury Flake actually dates back to 1920, and it was invented by a guy on the line here who just happened to see the chocolate pouring into the moulds and pouring out again, and the way it folded backwards and forwards. And they would, in the old days, they would just chip that off, either remelt it or throw it away. And he loved the texture and put in a suggestion to the company, and it was taken up, and that's where Cadbury Flake came from. But yeah, by the 60s, what you're saying there is the product pretty much had it been for many years, but a lot of support from advertising. So you've got the famous Flake Girl.
Yeah, I was a teenager when the Flake Girl first appeared on my television. She played a very important part in my growing up.
Yeah, as in most young men's lives, yes.
Enjoy Flake. Cadbury's Flake. Fold upon fold of creamy milk chocolate.
The 60s, like the 60s in general, in confectionery terms, was a time of experimentation, limitless possibilities.
It's full of biteable bubbles. New Coffee Aero tastes as good as it looks. Bite it and see.
Oh, look, nuts! Whole hazelnuts! Cadbury's take 'em and they go for them in chocolate.
They came in search of paradise and found it. Tender coconut moist with pure syrup.
Oh, Raisin Bar.
Yeah.
Amazing Raisin.
The Amazing Raisin.
The Curly Whirly. I can remember getting my very first Curly Whirly, and it seemed huge. In fact, it seemed impossibly huge. It was like holding a firework.
Yeah.
It was a great big thing. Look at this font. Oh.
Indeed, very 70s. It launched in 1970, so you got the sixpence and the 2.5p, both old and new money.
Oh, everything was double priced.
Indeed,
that's right.
Yeah. And of course, the iconic
Aztec
bar. The Aztec bar was, let's not mince our words here, it was a copy of the Mars bar. The advertising tied in with almost the golden age of TV advertising, which was the 70s.
Aztec.
I can remember that campaign because it was the first time for me that advertising any sort of confectionery had got really exciting. It was like watching a feature film.
Yeah, I think this is the days when the budget was limitless.
Cadbury's Aztec, a feast of a bar.
This is 70s, this is almost hippie box.
Yeah, this is your long flowing dresses.
I had a shirt like that.
we all had a shirt like that. Yeah.
Now look at him, the Milk Tray Man.
The Milk Tray Man, yeah. Although we'd been making the product for 50 odd years, it really became famous in the late 60s with the Milk Tray Man. 1968, you see him first appear. The actor who played him, Gary Myers, played him for 20 years. Did everything from skiing down slopes to diving off high cliffs into shark-infested waters. Similar, I suppose, in style to James Bond and other characters at the time. He was a gentleman. I mean, he left his calling card and then went. I mean, and that was as far as it went. Well, that was the impression.
He was a stalker. I mean, there's no way that he would get today any airtime at all.
And all because the lady loves Milk Tray.
And as the Milk Tray Man dived into uncharted waters, I too dived fully into my adolescence, with all that this entails growing up emotionally, psychologically, and sexually. We moved from busy Wolverhampton to the countryside, where I had no friends, and where my relationship with my father and my stepmother became strained, to say the least. It was a very bad teenage time. I was deeply unhappy and looking for somewhere that I felt was mine, something comforting, something, just a special place, a safe harbour. And it was the woods. And I'd come here with sweets, and I'd sit and eat them. There were some sweets that I associated with adulthood, with growing up. They were the things that my father didn't like me to eat, like bubblegum and chewing gum, which he disapproved of. But also odd things like walnut whip. He wouldn't allow it. I think it was probably the way I ate it, which was to bite the top off, and then I did this curling tongue down into the cream thing, which probably didn't look very nice. That was banned. The thing my father disapproved of most was the chocolate flake. An advert used to make my father's eyes lower to the floor. He would never buy me a flake. He used to buy them for my stepmother and watch her eat them, but I wasn't allowed one. So I used to snaffle them and take them off to the woods. I just loved everything about them. The way they crumbled, the way I wasn't supposed to eat them, and the way they used to leave little bits of chocolate on your clothes. They were just plain naughty, really. And I loved them. I was sort of preparing myself for adulthood, I think, for that little escape of getting away from the family and away from home and out into the big wide world. And so, as the busyness of adult life took over, the big bad world of sweets would now take something of a back seat. Work began to feature more heavily, and sweets, bar the occasional one, slowly faded from my life. Just as I've matured, so too has the confectionery industry. All of the original Quaker firms have now been swallowed up by larger global food manufacturers.
The battle for ownership of the British chocolate maker Cadbury could be over. A British name for almost 200 years, the firm looks set to be taken over by the American food giant Kraft.
Indeed, the childhood experience of sweets has changed hands too. Long gone is the innocent, excited dash to the local sweet shop with pocket money in hand. These days, parents ration their kids' intake, and the age of the multi-pack is firmly upon us. But despite these changes, whatever wrappers they may come in, wherever we buy them, and whoever does the buying, one thing is clear: sweets hold a very magical power over us.
Problem solved.
But what happens when we get to the last one again?
So, next time you pop a sweet into your mouth, spare a moment to remember the child within. It's why sweets are so beguiling and so important. We are, after all, just grown-up kids. Something as simple as this can keep us young at heart.
Everyone's a fruit and a nutcase. It keeps you going when you toss the cake.
Cadbury's flake, fold upon fold of creamy milk chocolate.
Don't forget the fruit gums, Mum.
And all because the lady loves milk tray.
Thank you for the days, those endless days, those sacred days you gave me. I'm thinking of the days I won't forget a single day, believe me. I bless the light.